What's up YouTube? My name is Will and today we're going to talk about tricks and tips to get your vehicle as low as possible when on air ride. Now Bag Riders has been around for 15 years. I've been here that whole time, and through those years we've bagged many cars. And we've developed a few very basic and easy to follow tips that will help you make sure you're getting the most out of your air suspension in terms of maximum drop. What I'm talking about is you have a short enough suspension when aired out that your vehicle should be right on the ground, but there's some other aspect of your chassis that's hanging you up. So we're gonna look at what those things may be. So my first pointer is super simple. Go ahead and get your stock wheel and tire package out and throw those back onto your vehicle. I want you to make sure that there's enough clearance around your suspension there. Some cases stock stuff will not fit with your air ride, so verify that. But with that on your vehicle, and assuming you have enough clearance so it's not gonna interfere with your suspension itself, you can go ahead and air out, and generally speaking on that stock package, you're gonna see what your maximum drop is that your suspension will allow. For my next tip, I like to actually air the vehicle all the way out onto a piece of corrugated cardboard, and that's gonna be a great way to establish what part of the vehicle makes contact with my tire first. So in this case, I don't believe we have anything in the back of this 996 that's holding us up. But there is still something keeping this car from getting as low as we know it can get. So I'm gonna move up to the front and take a look around all the components that surround that front suspension as it moves through its travel range. We now have total increased visibility during an air out, and we can really look at what components of our suspension are maxing out or running into something else. So in the case of the 996 here, what I'm able to notice is the front lower control arm and where it gets picked up by the front subframe is very, very close to making contact right there. That's a great location for you to check out on your own car if you're feeling limited in the amount of drop you get. Once we got the fender and headlight off, I could see that the sway bar was coming very, very close to the front lower control arm, and that front lower control arm actually had this air dam on it as well, and it was making contact with the clips that hold the air dam into place. So the theory there is you remove the pieces that you know are in the way of airing out, you air out again, and see if you got any lower. Another classic hangup occurs on double wishbone cars, such as certain Audis, Nissans, and Hondas. So what happens on those vehicles is the upper control arm, aka upper wishbone, while it's traveling upwards towards the unibody, will make contact with the unibody before your desired air out height has been achieved. This is a little bit more invasive to resolve this one. It's not as easy as the cardboard trick. So what you're gonna wanna do in a lot of cases is actually buy a custom spindle that is shorter. So what we did on our Q5 in the past and what we did on our LS430 build is we did acquire those shorter spindles, and that allows the maximum amount that the upper control arm has to move to be a little bit lower down and it's not running into the unibody. If that's too rich for your blood and you don't want to get custom spindles, the other good option is to reach out to a fabricator in your area and have them make some well-placed holes, providing the needed clearance for those upper control arms. And as a third pointer to all my Volkswagen boys out there, I used to be one myself. Got a Mark IV up on our lift right now. Thank you, Tucker, for loaning this to us. And I want to show you another thing that will happen that will keep your vehicle from getting as low as possible that is common on certain front-wheel drive cars. So you're going to have the transmission off to one side of the engine, and that means there's a short axle and a long axle. So in the case of Volkswagens, the long axle is going to be on the passenger side. So the axle is missing all that paint on it, and the actual unibody of the car has a little shiny point with a marring mark on it. What's happening there is this car is driving so low that the passenger side axle is constantly rubbing on the unibody. And surprise, surprise, if you go to air out and you empty the bags all the way out, the axle is gonna be the limiting factor. You're gonna get a lot lower on your driver's side in this case than you are on your passenger side. So not only do you need to worry about your pinch weld up over your tire, worry about your fender liners and having that fender off to really verify that everything has clearance, but you also wanna think about if you have a front wheel drive car, especially one where the transmission is off to the side of the engine, then chances are that your axle could be making contact with that unibody and holding you up, preventing you from being as low as possible. So we decided to fire the cameras back up now that I've finished wrenching on the 911 because I did make a discovery in my process. So not only was this our kind of test bed for this video to show you taking the fender off and to show you where to look for things like tie rod clearance, control arm clearance, bag clearance, all those important things that we could do on a vehicle. But while I had it apart, I did genuinely want to know why the front of the vehicle was not getting nearly as low as the rear and why we were not able to max out our super low suspension that we chose to put on this. And it turned out it actually, once we had that fender off, we were getting a lot lower on the side with no fender. So what that meant was we were actually hanging up on the fender itself. So a quick fix for that, rather than going to a body shop and having the fenders pulled and rolled, flattened, all we did was crank the camber plates so we had more negative camber. These wheels were able to completely avoid the fender itself as we air out. And I did achieve another 3/4 of an inch of drop. So I'm super satisfied there. And now we're at the actual mechanical limits of the suspension, so I consider that a huge success. Those are some of the simple tricks and tips we use to get vehicles here as low as physically possible, but I'm sure we're missing some, so I'd love to hear from you. Again, we've been bagging cars for many, many years here, and we still stumble across completely new techniques depending on what car we're working on, like this 996 behind me. So if you have any ideas or any tips I've totally skipped over, please drop a comment. I would love to hear about it. Again, my name is Will here at Bag Riders, and I'll see you on the next one. Might sound extremely simple, but what you get from that is seeing what part of your vehicle is running into your tire first and establish if that's what's holding you up.